Hello and good evening, everyone. So, before we start today's second day of Educast International Online Conference 2024, could you please type something in the chat box to tell me whether you can hear me clearly or not? Yes, that's perfect. Very good. Okay, so where are you joining us today? Where are you from? Good evening from Jordan. That's good. Morocco. Wonderful. Sri Lanka. Great. Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Algeria. Oh, Algeria, Oman. Yeah, very good. Egypt, Jordan. That's cool. Italy. Excellent. Egypt, Libya, Yemen. Yeah, people from different parts of the world gathered, for, seeking professional development. Very good. KSA, excellent. Very good. So it's very nice to be having all of you here with us today. This is Mohammed Nabil, the organizer of the conference and the founder of Educast International Association. So everyone, let's get started and start the second day of the Educast's International Conference. But I have some words to say before we start. Welcome to Educast's second conference on professional development for educators on the first and second days of the pre-conference day, where the pursuit of excellence in teaching goes beyond conventional boundaries. As Victor Hugo once remarked, he who opens a school door closes a prison. This sentiment encapsulates the transformative power of education, and our conference aims to empower educators in unlocking the doors to boundless opportunity. Well, let me tell you something about yesterday's presentations. It was a wonderful day. Yesterday, we had three talks by three wonderful people. We started with Hind Ilyas, the active, ELT, colleague from Saudi Arabia, who talked about inspiring educators, exploring the potential of communities of practice for growth. She talked about the importance of communities of practice for teacher development. We also moved with Karim Mahmoud to talk about evaluating EFL reference materials, boost dictionary skills in EFL classrooms, and we ended the day with a wonderful talk by Aya Badr, who talked about effective speaking activities, maximizing learning outcomes and learner engagement. So, everyone, today we have four more talks. We're going to first start with Jihad Samir, who will be talking about assessment for learning or of learning. And then we will have Hibatullah Samir and Titiana Myronova, who are going to talk about ChatGPT, the personalized guide to teacher growth. And then we will move with Dr. Haitham Safwat, who will be talking about school administrative employees' perceptions of English for specific purposes. And last but not least, the last talk of today with Sarah Safa, who will be talking about developing a business English course with 21st century skills. I hope that you will have a wonderful, beneficial day today. Let me tell you before we start kicking off this day that this meeting is being recorded because we're live on YouTube. This means that you're going to access the recordings whenever you want on Educast's YouTube channel. So let's start talking about the first presentation of today. As I mentioned before, we have Gehad Samir for the first talk of today. So, fueled by yesterday's vibrant discussion and insightful presentation, we rise again. Yesterday, we explored the landscape of education, its challenges and opportunities, and ignited dialogues that promise to transform our classrooms and communities. Today, we delve deeper, pushing the boundaries of possibility and equipping ourselves with actionable strategies to empower ourselves and our learners. Here's a quick glimpse of what awaits you today in the first talk. Although assessment is a fundamental component of the educational process that allows teachers to evaluate student learning and progress, it's not a common topic between teachers. Assessment helps to measure how well students are meeting learning objectives, identify areas where they may need additional support and make informed decisions about instruction and curriculum. Effective assessment practices are grounded in a deep understanding of student learning and are designed to provide meaningful feedback to both teachers and students. By using assessment to guide instruction and support student learning, teachers can create an environment that promotes student success and achievement. Let's welcome our first speaker of day two, Gehad Samir, who is an academic coordinator at Forest University in Alexandria. She is a CELTA and TIFL holder. She is also an ESL teacher at Arab Academy in Alexandria. Gehad is talking about assessment for learning or of learning. So let's welcome Gehad Samir, who will be talking about the first topic of today's day.
Welcome, everyone. Hello.
So, hello, Gehad. Yes, we can hear you. How are you?
I'm fine. What about you?
I'm good, thank you. So, everyone, can you hear us clearly? Can you drop something in the chat box?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, very good. Great. So, let's get started. Gehad, whenever you're ready, the floor is all yours. You're already a co-host and you can share the screen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Muhammad. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my session. Okay. As Muhammad said, that my session today is about assessment for learning and of learning. So let me ask you a question, and I want you to unmute your mics and tell me your answers, or if you want to write in the chat box, it's okay. So why do we assess our learners? Okay, nice. To assess
So,
our
someone is
teaching.
saying to assist our teaching. Yeah, I'm going to help you with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, someone else. Yeah, Fiona is saying to comprehend their level of acquisition. Wow, that's good. That's a good answer.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to check the performance. That's what Ahmed said. Noha El Gibali to make sure we achieve our goals. Iman Ramadan to ensure we have achieved the learner objectives. Ashraf is saying to make sure of their progress.
assembly
Basant for the
levels.
most
Yeah,
benefit scaling their progress. Zainab to assess our teaching methods. Nisbat Sabah to assess the level. Yeah, to know where we are heading to. By the way, we cannot unmute here ourselves. Yeah, actually, yeah, in order to avoid distractions,
yeah.
we kept this feature on.
Okay.
Yeah, to make sure that, yeah, I think, all the answers are talking about the same thing.
Yes. So all your answers are correct. But the next question that I want to ask you, what about our learners? Why do we assess our learners, or how do they benefit from this assessment? The importance for our students. Great. Okay, nice. Yes. Okay, nice. Very good answers. Okay, great.
Yeah, so as you can see, yeah, to motivate them to view the
Yeah,
material
yeah,
for properly knowing what to know. And yes, and what I said in that is it's important for them to know their own level and have some sense of progress because it's really important for them to keep motivated.
great. Type. Let me now share my screen with you. Okay. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yep.
Great. So here, as I start, so what is the importance of assessment for our students? So here, to understand their errors, to understand the feedback received on their errors, and help them improve their performance. Okay, my question is assessment for learning or of learning. At the end of the session, you're going to answer, okay, this question. So now I want you to tell me what is the difference between assessment for learning and of learning. Uh, does anyone know? Okay, I can't see, but I see that some people sending on the chat, right?
Yes, some people are saying, yeah, outcome and process for the aim and of the learning process, assessment for learning formative and diagnostic.
Great.
Farah says for learning formative assessment, attempt to measure the incomes and the outcomes of the learning process, learning to understand, understanding to learn and produce, the aims of learning summative,
Okay.
assessment of learning summative. So I think most of them said that assessment for learning is a formative type of assessment, and assessment of learning is a summative
Summative
type of
one,
assessment.
yes. Yes,
Yeah.
great. So here some differences, okay, as you said. So here the assessment for learning or the formative one. So during the learning process, it for low stakes exams and cover discrete content, identify areas of improvement. Assessment of learning. So at the end of the learning process, at the final exams and so on, and it's high stakes exam. Do you know what the meaning of low stakes and high stakes exams? Okay, type. For low stakes exams, it's according to the number of the students or the learners. So if it's a quiz, so the number of the students who um, doing this exam, okay, they are few, but high stakes exams like IELTS or so on. So it's an international exam. So a lot of number of people taking this exam. Okay, let's move to the next point. Okay, so as we have differences, so we have also some similarities between them, that both assess learning, both are used for feedback, both are used for future planning, and both can often take the same shape. So here, I'll stop at this part, and I'm gonna to ask you how the two forms of the assessment can take the same shape. Do you have any idea? Okay, type. I'm gonna to tell you how can both take the same shape. So if we have here a quiz on a part of a unit, okay, I'm going to ask my students to write, for example, an essay about the Egyptian Revolution, for example. Then at the end of the semester, I'm gonna to tell them to write an essay about this, okay, topic again, the Egyptian Revolution, but this time after finishing all the unit. Okay. Now let's move to examples of assessment for learning and of learning. Okay, so here both that assessment for learning could be like quizzes in games, class projects, presentations, group activities, polls during a lesson, making ads, idea comparisons, misconceptions, exit tickets, and in-class discussions. And here for of learning, so they are final exam, in-depth reports, end of class projects, final essays and end of unit tests, portfolios and performance as a final presentation. And this is also a kind of, as we said, that they can take the same shape. Okay, I'll discuss with you make and add idea comparisons and misconceptions, as they are trendy ones, and I want to talk with you about them. So let's start by make and add. How can we use or how can we form assessment during making an ad? Can you tell me in the chat box? Okay, type. Let's have this. Now, you need to have your students create an advertisement for a concept they just learned and use the visuals and text to really sell an idea. So how can we benefit from this? This makes students apply what they have learned into a creative exercise, which helps with long-term retention. Let's move to idea comparisons. So here you need to instruct students to lay out the main ideas of a new concept they learned. Then have them compare that concept to another to see where they agree or disagree about this one. Okay? And this also, so here, this helps students remember these concepts. Then apply previous knowledge to a new format so they can remember it better in the future when they compare things together. What about misconceptions? What comes in your mind when we say misconceptions? Okay, Mohammed, can you tell me if someone says something in the chat box about misconceptions?
Well, okay. So some people, are still typing in the chat box. Here we have just distorted comprehension. Comprehension, yeah, distorted comprehension. That's what Mohammed said. Um, Nohan Gibeli is saying something they misunderstand.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, people are still typing. Okay. Yeah, the wrong idea about something. So maybe, yeah, maybe you don't understand what the terminology mean. That's
Okay.
yeah. And yeah, there is another thing here, unclear understanding of the concept, stereotypes. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So now, after you introduce a concept to students, introduce a popular misconception about it. Have the student discuss why the misconception is false and where it may have started. One day, I was teaching my engineering students vocabulary, and one of these words was open-minded. Okay. And when I asked my students if it's a negative or a positive adjective, they said negative. And when I'm asking them why it's a negative, because related to their culture, maybe, okay, and they said maybe it's someone who do bad things, okay. But English, open-minded means that you, okay, uh, accept others, okay. So this exercise makes the students think critically about what they have just learned while showing them how to debunk misinformation. So here, what criteria should we bear in mind when doing assessment in general? Okay, so here are the criteria we should bear in mind when doing assessment. The assessment should be according to their level, assess the aims, cultural sensitivity, differentiation of students, variety of tasks, and promote low and high order thinking skills and correction. Okay, now I'm going to discuss with you these things. Let's start with according to the level. It's very important that the assessment, okay, apply the level of the students. And how do we know this is this level? According to the SEF, we know, as you can see here, it starts from A1 to C2. As the aims, we have aims, okay, and we say by the end of the session, learners will be able to identify and use the past simple tense, regular and irregular verbs in positive and negative forms. So here, can I ask them about questions to form questions? No. Okay. Can I ask them past simple and present perfect to compare between them? No. Okay. Because here only the aims to identify and use past simple in the positive and negative form. Okay. So here, cultural sensitivity. It's very important when you choose any topic to talk, or even they read, that it match the cultural sensitivity. Okay, so here, as in Egypt, we don't have pigs as pets. Okay, so this is, we can't use this kind of comprehensions in classes. Differentiation of students. We are not all the same. Some of us are visuals, okay? They need to see things. Some like to hear, and others like to do things by their hands. Okay, about these pictures. So here it's very important. The tasks, okay, they should be different. Some they can do it individually, some pairs, and other in groups. Okay, so here we have also promote low and high order thinking skills, as here in the chart. So the low order thinking, it's for applying, understanding, remembering, just remembering things. But when I ask them, or I have a task that promote high order thinking skills, when I ask them to analyze or evaluate or create something, as they write story about something, write an essay, opinion essay about something, and so on. For the corrections, they need to have different kinds of correction, as peer checking, no, and teacher and students, okay, as groups, not only the teacher who said yes and no, okay. Right. So here, my question is, assessment for learning or of learning, what do you think? So can you tell me your answers?
Yeah, so everyone, there is a question on the slide here right now. Assessment for learning or of learning. What do you think about that? Can you please type your, answers in the chat box? Someone said both. Um, yeah, someone else said for learning. Yeah, we have, variety of answers here.
Okay.
Yeah, some think for, and some others think of, something both. Yeah. So yeah, variety
Okay.
is good.
Okay, so I'll share with you this one now. Okay, so here with formative assessment, you stand much better chance of getting a clear picture of what the student learned that day or week. But you won't be able to determine what they will retain over the course of time from particular assessment. Okay, what about summative assessment or the assessment of learning? So you can't see what they retained, but at this point, it's too late to change your teaching and correct the past. Okay, so here, we use formative assessment during the learning process to help our students, okay, to do the summative ones at the final exams and projects and so on. So here both forms of assessment should be combined into an integrated system that can deliver learning data all along the way. So do you agree or disagree with me? Mm, okay, I can see.
Yeah, someone is saying agree. Yeah, strongly agree. Yeah, I think the majority of the people here agree with what you have suggested about that both forms of assessment should be combined into an integrated system that can deliver learning data all along the way. We need both, yes.
Yes, yes. So we need both, okay, during our teaching process. Okay, so here, thank you so much. Thank you, Muhammad, and thank you for attending the session. If you have any questions, so okay, I'm ready.
Great. That was great, Gehad. Thank you. Thank you for your contribution to the conference. So yes, if there is any question, feel free to type it in the chat box. I'm looking at the chat box at the moment. Yeah, some people have just arrived. Very good. So yeah, so you talked about two important aspects of assessment that are needed in every class, because we need to have some kind of assessment to tell the learners about their own progress, right? And also we need to know their own progress at the same time, because yeah, this is how we can decide whether they are going to move to the next level or not. Don't you agree with me?
Yes,
Yeah, that's right.
yes,
So yeah,
yes, yes,
yeah, but regarding the topic of assessment, is a little bit neglected by lots of teachers. Don't you think so?
yes, sure.
Yeah, why do you think
Yes, I
so?
agree
Why?
with you, Muhammad, but I don't know why why don't teacher look for assessment. It's a very important thing to know, as we said at the beginning. Okay, the assessment important for us as
Mhm,
educators and also
mhm.
for students. Okay,
Yeah.
so here we need to know if they need help, okay, or also if we have things that we need to improve for our, okay, later sessions and so on.
Mhm. Yeah. So actually, yes, yeah, I used to be one, I used to neglect or avoid, talking about assessment or even reading about it, because there is a lot to be said in this area, and it needs lots of research in order to understand the idea, or the process of assessing learners. Okay, and assessing whether teachers are on the right track or not. So someone is saying
Yes,
here, yes, because not most of the teachers have the knowledge or the understanding to apply, them correctly and efficiently in their teaching. People, are thanking you for the presentation. Heartiest thanks. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks a bunch. Thanks very much. Thank you. Glad to be here. Great to be here in this wonderful presentation. Thank you. There needs to be much more training for educators on assessment, as still lots, yeah, of focus is on the traditional methods. Yeah, that's
yes,
right. Very
and also as you know, Muhammad, that there are not only two type of assessment as formative and summative. There are a lot. and
Yeah,
but that we focus on formative and summative one.
yeah. Yes, of course, yeah. I completely agree with you. And of course, you know that I know that you work in the testing unit at Forest University in Alexandria. That's why I think you're talking, from a real experience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We used both. We both used to work with each other at the same place. So, yeah, that's right. Very good. So, everyone, that was the end of our first talk for today. So if you want to ask you had any other questions before we move to the other topic, let me know in the chat box. So someone is saying great session, very well documented, argumented, informative, enriching, and inspirational. Um, exactly, yeah, there is a feedback form on this for this online event. It will be sent, um, after the last presentation or the last talk of today. Yeah, people are still thanking you here, which is very good. Yeah,
Thank you
lots
so
of good
much.
words about you. So thanks, Gab, for your wonderful contribution to our conference in its second edition. So everyone, we had Gehed in this first talk who talked about assessment for learning or off learning. And I asked her a question about why most teachers avoid talking about assessment or even doing research um, uh, in assessment. And, you know, this is because many teachers see assessment as a crucial part of their practice. Yes, but they are not happy with lots of, the theoretical stuff, as we might say. So, yeah, that's what I think. A lot of theoretical stuff, and teachers don't like to read about theories. That's what I guess from my
Hmm.
side. So everyone, thanks a lot, Gad. We're going to go for a break for a couple of minutes till other speaker joins us. So everyone don't go anywhere. Yeah, yeah, 5 minutes break, and then we will have our second talk.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you so much. Thank you.
So we're back, everyone, again. So can you please confirm in the chat box whether you can hear me clearly or not? Very good. Great. Wonderful. So again, it's an honor to have you all with us from different parts of the world gathered to seek professional development in this second edition of our conference, Educast's International Online Conference. Let me remind you that this conference this year is brought to you in sponsorship, by Cambridge, Macmillan Education, and British Training Center. And there will be lots of gifts and surprises at the end of the conference. There will be free teacher training courses. There will be free teacher training books, discounts on teacher training programs and language courses, and lots of other things. So I encourage you to follow our YouTube channel, in the name of Educast EG, and our pages on Facebook. So, everyone, let's get back on track and welcome our second speaker of today, Hibatullah Samir, or Hibatullah Mursi. Sorry about that. Yeah. So, before talking and introducing our speaker, imagine a world where AI becomes your personalized teaching assistant, crafting engaging lesson plans, generating creative activities, and offering real-time feedback on your students' progress. ChatGPT transforms professional development, providing individualized support, fostering collaborative learning, and sparking innovation in your classroom. The future of education unfolds before you, empowered by the potential of AI to personalize learning, enhance student engagement, and elevate your teaching practice. Everyone, let's welcome Hibatullah, who is an educator who is passionate about teaching, training, and learning. She has been in the ELT field since 2005 and is currently pursuing an MA in TEFL. She has completed her DIP TESOL from Trinity College London and is currently an assistant consultant and Educast Tech Stick coordinator. So, Hiba, can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Muhammad and everyone. Can you hear me as
Hello.
well?
Yeah, we can hear you clearly. It looks very cold where you are right now. Where are you joining us
It
today?
is in China.
Oh, yeah, that's good for you. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it sometimes gets very cold there. Yeah, great.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's an
true.
honor to
Very,
have you
very
with us
cool.
here. Yeah, and
Thank you.
it's a very, it's a pleasure to have you as part of Educast. So again, I'm not gonna talk very much. I'm just, yeah, gonna give you the mic. So whenever you're ready to share your screen, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Muhammad, for your efforts and for organizing this wonderful event. And thank you for everybody attending and being keen on your professional development. I'm really, really proud of all of you and your efforts. Thank you. So I'm gonna share my screen if you allow. Thank you. Basically, yep, okay. So I suppose you can see my screen now. Basically, this is
Yep.
the title of the session. And this is what we're going to talk about today, basically Chat GPT. And as you all know, ChatGPT, of course, is an AI tool that was created recently by a company like owned by Microsoft, I would say. And they want basically to facilitate everything that happens with people, whether it's research, like maybe robots even in the future when they implement the AI within a robot. So imagine that. Anyway, how can we make use of that in our teaching career? And I mean the career, not just the everyday to day kind of task where you teach the students or to give them homework or explain a lesson. So let's talk about how we can use it for our benefits. And for this, I didn't create a presentation per se, like where I just show screenshots of the steps. Let's do it practically. And please feel free to ask questions. Just raise your hand so I see and nobody would kind of overtalk the other participants. Okay. So I am using the free version of ChatGPT, as you can, or you'll be able to see in 2 seconds. Okay, so this is the free version of ChatGPT, as you all might have seen it before. And basically, here you have the message ChatGPT box where you actually put your command, and they have examples for you. So you can create a workout plan, which is really, really helpful. You can actually make it your personal assistant for anything, and that's what we're going to do for your career as a teacher. So, one thing that I always ask myself, what am I going to do in 2 years' time, in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, where I want my career to take me as a teacher? Am I going to be just teaching students? Am I going to be involved more in assessment? Am I going to be involved more in training? I don't know. I like all of them, to be honest, and I like also curriculum development, but am I going to do everything? Maybe. Will I have the time? I don't think so. So, first thing, I would ask ChatGPT about what I want to do. How? Simply, I will say, I want to know about the possible career choices for an English teacher. And I can actually write EFL teacher to be specific since that's my context, as you can see. Yep, that's right, Asma. We can also use ChatGPT to assist us preparing materials. But what I'm talking about today is actually like how we're gonna develop ourselves and what we want to basically learn as teachers. So you see, here we have 10 choices. So one thing is just to work in a school, which is great, dealing with the students and the different ages, like from primary to secondary, and even younger than primary, and you see the progress yourself. It gives you some sort of satisfaction, I would say. Private tutor could also work. Online English teacher. I think this is very common these days. Language consultant. That's nice. What's a language consultant? Well, EFL teachers can work as language consultants for businesses, organizations, or government agencies. If you've been on LinkedIn, you would see some of these jobs actually. They would want a language consultant in order to help them with creating assessment, creating materials for their team, helping with maybe creating a program for the employees themselves, like business English, something that will help them elevate the level of the staff. Number 5 is content developer. That's really interesting as well. So maybe you want to create or specialize in creating the materials for your groups. Teacher trainer, of course, this is very popular. And curriculum developer as well. You would notice that there's a difference here between content developer and curriculum developer. But if you want to know more, you can simply ask. Well, in your answer, you mentioned this, so just copy and paste. And this. Briefly, tell me the difference between those career choices. Okay, you can see the typos. All right. So that's a great answer, I would say, because basically content developer, it tells you that the focus is on creating specific educational materials. So it could be to customize something for a specific class. So you already have a curriculum at the school or the organization that you work for, and you want to kind of customize them according to your learners' needs. And there are certain responsibilities and also a creative side to that. While curriculum developer, you actually create or design the materials yourself. So that might be also something that you would think of if you're interested in that part. So going back, there is also language assessment specialist, which basically is an examiner or someone who actually creates the exams, and cross-cultural trainer. So we have 10 choices for careers as teachers where you can develop. Here, you need to set a goal to yourself, like choose just one path. Since we went with the content developer and curriculum developer, I would choose curriculum developer because that's actually a good one. Very interesting to create a curriculum for a whole class or maybe whole school. So I would ask ChatGPT, like, tell me, or actually give me 80% of ideas or concepts I need to learn about development and 20% of tools to use. The reason why I use 80-20 is just to facilitate it for myself, is like, what could be the main concepts or the main theories that I can learn about and read about, and then 20% of the tools, like how I can implement this. Okay, so if we go back to the answer, things that we need to learn about is in curriculum development here would be the educational philosophy. That's a very good point to think about when you're trying to create a curriculum for an organization, because your thinking is like, what's the approach? What's the best approach I can take for this particular organization? What's their philosophy? Are they teaching for a certain purpose? What are the goals here? So I'm thinking about how I can like reach out to my students basically according to the beliefs and principles of my organization. So if we want more information about this as of education philosophy, then I can ask about that specific point. Like, give me more details about this, give me more details about that. So this will be also like I can do this. I'm just taking this as an example. We can, of course, go through one by one, but let's take the first one as an example. So I would say you mentioned again educational philosophy, and I want you to suggest some articles and books to learn more about this. I would remove the word books because that would be too much work, to be honest. And I want something brief to help. So I will start with articles. If I need to dig deeper, that's when I will ask for the books. So you mentioned just some articles to read about this and links to these articles. Voila. We have some articles and links. So of course we can open that and study one by one. And the good thing, you can also summarize these articles by using a different tool, but this other tool uses ChatGPT, so still, I think it's called Ask PDF, I think. Yeah, Ask PDF. Okay, so now we learn about the educational philosophy. We've read the articles, we summarized them, we know what we want to do. We dig deeper. We want to know more about the learning objectives, needs assessment, how to create them, curriculum models, design, all of these. Will that take time? Of course, it will take time. So what should I do then? Very simple. After I created all of these, so I can actually copy like the answer here, this particular one only. Excuse me. And I can say create. Sorry. Thank you, thank you. Okay. Create a timetable and add or let's say for example 10 days, for about 10 days, and make a study plan of the following points. So okay, the good thing, it's created a plan, and there's a morning session and afternoon session. But I'm a visual person actually, so I would say please. There's no need to say please, but I sometimes we're just being polite with robots. But anyway, I would say put the previous response in a table. Here it is. Okay. All right. I'm very needy. I would say edit the table and add readings and articles with links. Okay. It didn't edit the table. It didn't include in the table. So include the link from the previous response in the table according to the subject studied. Voila. Okay, so as a teacher, and I am learning to do this. And as you could see here in the afternoon session, there are some practical things like to do, and we would need feedback. So how can we get feedback on this? Let's choose take notes on the key principles, no practice conducting assessment. I don't have a needs assessment like right now, but if we say, okay, how to make sure that this, I would say, my needs assessment is created correctly. And it gave me a rubric. So I can reflect on my needs assessment. And if I actually need also more details, we can ask for this rubric to be fixed also in a table. We can make it kind of graded into levels 1 to 3 and so on and so forth. So basically, we can now be curriculum developers if we want to. And this can apply to everything else. Well, you need to be, let's go back to the top. So you need to be an English teacher at a school, private tutor, online, consultant, assessment, you name it, everything. So you can create yourself a whole plan for your development. Is there something missing? I would say, yeah. We can maybe ask, what are the qualifications that I can obtain to be a curriculum developer? Now it would also suggest certifications. Qualify me for that role. Free marketing. Harvard is the first one. Wow. Okay. So now we can go and look at these programs and see which one is fit and which one is not. And as a matter of fact, I'm thinking right now, are any of these programs offer a scholarship? So it doesn't tell you whether it has a scholarship for each program, but it tells you where to look. So you would look like at the website itself under which section. So here it tells you to look under the scholarship databases or the departmental each department sometimes have a scholarship, and sometimes also they have assistantship instead of a scholarship. So they fund you and then maybe you work for them. It's kind of like the fellowship the AUC has in Egypt, and external funding sources. Sometimes also there are other organizations who support the students and give them some funding. Fellowship programs, diversity and inclusion, scholarships, a lot of universities actually have the diversity and inclusion scholarships, and they accept people from different countries for that purpose, because they know that some developing countries have lots of like people with potential, and they would want to help them. So they also have this part of scholarship that you can apply for. So this is basically what I wanted to share today with you. And I have a question for you. What do you want to be as a teacher? How do you want to grow professionally? Muhammad, can they speak? I mean, like, can unmute and just share? Raise your
Well,
hand and share?
if you want me to allow them to speak, it's
I
fine.
would
It's
love
up to
that.
you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
very good. So
Yes,
let
please.
me enable them to speak. But again, if anyone wants to contribute, could you please raise your hands?
I love the chat also. I mean, a lot of people saying lovely stuff. Wow.
Yeah, the chat
And
box is going
Fiona, I
crazy.
agree with you. Yes, yes. We are learners all the time. Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. We're all, lifelong learners.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have
Well,
Ahmed Wadi here. Yeah.
Miriam, I was just asking that I wanted to contribute like to this discussion and say what do you want to be and how you want to grow professionally. So Ahmed here raised his hand. Yeah, Ahmed, go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah.
hello everybody. Thank you,
Hello.
Miss Hibatullah Morsi, for
Thank
your
you.
great
Just Heba.
effort
Thank
and
you.
presentation. Yes, and Mr.
Thank you.
Muhammad for this
Thank you.
organization, marvelous organization. Yeah,
Thank you.
I like professionalism. If I say professional growth or CPD all the time by reading and attending these kinds of promising conferences and also attending courses. And I advise myself and my colleagues here to contact CELTA and or Delta courses to improve themselves and
Of course.
yeah, to become
I agree with you, Ahmed, actually. This is very, very good point. It's very good that you know, like some people would say that they know that Celta and Delta are kind of the qualifications that every teacher should have, because it gives you the knowledge and practice. It's just not theoretical. It also gives you the classroom experience where you have feedback from your tutors, and like you get to practice in a safe environment, I would say. So you grow professionally and mentally. But what I'm saying here, like my purpose also is to add to you. I mean, after you finish your Celta and Delta, for example, and you want to specialize in a certain field, but because like in ELT, there are lovely glamorous fields, and you can specialize in something that you will succeed at more than just kind of be a generalist. I'm not saying that journalists are, but I am a journalist myself. But I mean, for some people, you want kind of like a roadmap to your success. So that will help you as well with that. So I totally agree with you, Ahmed. That's perfect. I like that you are keen on your growth. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
yeah. I have
We have
one more
also,
point if you don't
go
mind.
ahead, of course.
Teachers, the first step to improve yourself to be convinced about the importance of professional growth and CPD. This is the
Mhm.
first step to make reflection on action or inaction while or during your professional growth journey. I know it's very hard to make this journey, but the first step to start and take the first step to be a professional
Absolutely.
teacher like that. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. I agree. Thank you so much, Ahmed. Thank you.
Yeah, that was
Ibrahim
wonderful
also raised his hand.
contribution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go on, Muhammad. Sorry. Go on.
Yes, it's fine. Okay, so let's unmute Ibrahim. Yes,
Okay.
great.
Yeah, thank you, Muhammad, and your colleagues for creating this wonderful conference online.
Always a
Uh,
pleasure.
this, okay. So what I want to be, I like to say what I want to do. So
Thank you. I think is Ibrahim still there?
I think
Well,
we've
also we
lost
have
him. Yeah, we've lost him.
yeah,
Yeah, Michelle.
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 Yeah,
Yeah,
go on,
great.
Michelle. Please share your ideas, please.
Yeah. So now you can unmute yourself.
Okay. Hi. I'm from South
Hello.
Africa. I was in Poland for 3 years, teaching. Fortunately, I am still teaching for two Polish schools. And English Wizards is busy helping me to try and get my working visa back so I can return to Poland. So I had an awesome experience, and Poland is home to me now. So for everyone out there, I just want to let you know, communication is key. Yeah. My classes, my lessons with my students are all about communication. Normally, I like to prepare my lessons myself. I know that there's ChatGPT out there, assistants. I only did the TEFL 320-hour course, and actually that's been sufficient. I have, of course, attended additional online, updates and stuff to keep myself abreast of what's going on out there, which is awesome. But yeah, getting stuck in and doing the work yourself is really key. And also listening to what my students want. A lot of them will, say general English, which is great then. Fortunately, I do have other qualifications in life. I've always been a teacher. I was actually in the surveillance field for over 24 years of my life, which is security. So I'm well versed in the Financial Intelligence Center Act and all of that kind of thing, which has been instrumental in achieving and giving my students what they want. So I just want to say to all of you out there, just keep abreast of what's going on out there, and yeah, good luck.
That's a
Yeah,
great
that's right.
advice.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
Yeah.
much, Michelle.
No
Yeah,
problem.
and
Thanks.
my pleasure. So it's always a pleasure to have, wonderful teachers like you, Michelle, with an extensive, intensive experience, in different parts of the world. But let me tell you something, everyone here. Since we're talking about professional development and artificial intelligence at the same time, we all know that it's really important, to keep ourselves updated with always what's coming up. So what I want to share right now is some of the benefits of using AI in teacher development. I'm not going to talk about that because we already have a wonderful talk by the wonderful Dr. Ron Moraine on the first day of the conference tomorrow. But I'm going to, say it in brief, So AI is very good for having a personalized learning experience, because it can analyze a teacher's strengths and weaknesses, and also the teaching style, and also it can suggest personalized learning pathways, including relevant courses, resources, and feedback. And this, addresses the different and individual needs for everyone and preferences. It's also good for having efficient feedback, just like, you showed us a lot, Hiba, today about, using
Thank you.
ChatGPT.
Thank you.
And yeah, I know that it's really important to use the most accurate prompts to get what you really need out of ChatGPT, right? Yeah. So
Yeah, and it's good to
the
experiment with it as well. I mean, if you don't get your answer the first time, it's fine to just experiment and just to like go to different pathways until you find your actual path.
Exactly, that's right. But let's not forget about something really important here is that AI will never replace humans. We
Of
created
course.
AI, so we just want to use it for our own benefit and our learners' benefit. Yeah, so that was really good, Hiba. So I
Thank
was
you.
wondering if there is
We had
anyone else
Fiona
raising a hand.
raised her hand also. Fiona, you still there?
So let's check. Fiona, are you still? Yeah, Fiona, yeah. So you can unmute yourself now.
Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. Greetings to all of you.
Thank you.
Greetings, Fiona.
I'm Fiona from Sri Lanka. And I remember there was a question a while ago, and I'm the one who answered about, I believe that perfection is, attained by slow degrees, and of course, it requires the hand of time. So, along with that statement, I want to thank you for your humble guidance upon this chat GPT. In Sri Lanka, this is a bit of a new criteria and aspect as well. So I believe that as teachers, we need to be learners and, developing tolerance and never underestimating the power of listening will take you a long way along with your esteemed learners. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fiona. These are really wise words. Thank you so much for sharing them.
So the pleasure is mine, ma'am.
Ib-
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Ibrahim, welcome
Ibrahim has
back.
come back. Yeah, Ibrahim has come back. Let me
Yeah,
allow him to unmute
thank you.
himself. Yes, he's raising his hand. Yeah, so it's here. Great.
Thank you again, Muhammad. I'd like to say I want to teach English as a language, not a subject, and this is an essential topic, by the way. You know how we grew together. I was just a novice teacher a few years ago. I grew up and I started to be a mentor, and I found that I must be a lifelong learner. In this way, I could apply what I believe in. Thanks.
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you so much, Ibrahim. These are
yes,
really true. Thank you. Marwa, go ahead, please.
So Marwa, can you please raise your hand again so that I can find you? Yeah, great. And by the way, before Marwa
Yeah,
talks,
yeah.
she was
Oh,
a presenter. She did a wonderful
That's great.
presentation in our previous
thank
conference.
you.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the wonderful presentation and the conference is also over. I'm really enjoying the whole thing. What I want to share with you here is a proverb, or let me say it's a motto that I really believe in, which is if you want to learn something very well, teach it. So I always share what I regularly learn with my colleagues in my institution and everywhere, whether in the community of practice uh, groups that I'm part of in on WhatsApp or on Facebook. Because as Aristotle says, it's really rewarding to give others what they need to learn and know. And I feel I'm all the time updating my skill set. I'm getting my skill set to be sharp and coping with the rapid change going on around us through sharing what I regularly learn, as if I'm stressing the pieces of information that I get when I share them, when I teach others, and I really feel I'm doing something of great value when I get them or give them what they need to learn and know. So this is something that I really appreciate. The job I'm doing is not I'm not doing it for earning my earning the living. No, I'm doing it to feel that I'm someone who is doing something of great value, and to do this mixing with other mentalities is something that is really important for me. So what I'm working on nowadays is pursuing my master's degree. Planning to get my PhD. Inshallah, I have this
Inshallah.
aspiration, and yeah, I really aspire to do this. And I'm all the time getting courses, whether free or paid. I aspire to get the Celta and Delta and share what I regularly learn. And I guess that's all as far as I'm concerned. How do you see that?
That's great. Great advice, Marwa. And this was like a really motivating message. Thank you so much for sharing it with everybody and giving us like I wouldn't say hope as much as I would say awareness and to be mindful of our journey as teachers, because as you mentioned, even if we do teach to earn money, there's nothing wrong with that because we want to make a living as well. But also there is this, I wouldn't say just sense of satisfaction, but it's also gratitude to being in this field that we're helping lots and lots of people to become better versions of themselves and even in just one subject, because learning a language, as also Ibrahim mentioned earlier, it's not just the subject. When you learn a language, you actually increase some brain cells. I mean, it's a whole different knowledge. You learn about another culture. You're a different person, you know. So it's a message, really. So we should learn and be up to date and be prepared to deliver that message. So really thank you for everyone who attended, and thank you, Muhammad, for gathering this wonderful group together and like inviting everybody. Thank you so much.
Again, it's always a pleasure to organize such events because the main aim behind all of that is number one is to leave a message, which is believe in yourself and you will, achieve your dreams if you have the dream. Okay. So yes, so everyone, if you're there, don't go anywhere. We still have two more talks to go. Yeah. So moving from artificial intelligence, now we're going to talk about something a little bit different, which is English for specific purposes. And let me tell you in brief about the next talk. So, the next talk will highlight the basic grasp of English, which is probably necessary for administrators of language schools to interact with the students, instructors, and staff efficiently. However, the language school's precise objectives and concentration may change this. While some language schools may concentrate on teaching other languages, others may specialize in teaching English as a foreign language. In addition, the degree of English proficiency needed for administrators may vary depending on the level of the professors and students and the particular administrative duties they are in charge of. Thus, this presentation concerns the perception of an Egyptian private school's administrative employees regarding the importance of learning English for specific purposes. So our next speaker is Dr. Haitham Safwat, who is an EFL ESP instructor with 20 years of experience in teaching English to speakers of other languages. He holds a master's degree in English for specific purposes, or ESP, and is a TEFL certified instructor. He taught different age groups in various schools and language centers. He has been exposed to various teaching contexts and practices that have honed his teaching skills and widened his horizons to conduct research in language education. Sorry about that. His research interests include TEFL, TESOL, and ESP. So the next talk is entitled Perceptions of Egyptian Private Schools Administrative Employees regarding the importance of learning English for workplace. So Haitham, are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, Assalamu alaikum. Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, great. Great to be having you here. And thanks for joining early as a great.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Haitham, now you are the co-host and you can share the screen whenever you want. So whenever you're ready, please share yours.
Okay. I'm ready, inshallah. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Your voice is clear, and so as the screen.
So let's start. Okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hello, everyone. It gives me great pleasure to be one of the participants in this conference. Thanks, Mr. Muhammad. Thanks for all of you. I'm Haytham Safwat, and I'd like to introduce myself. That by the end of the day, I'm English language teacher and instructor. Today, we are going to discuss together the title of our paper, or the title of the slides is School Administrative Employees Perceptions of English for Specific Purposes. And this lecture is prepared by Haytham Safwat and Amr Slim. Maybe something wrong. Just a minute. So the objectives of our lecture today is what is ESP? When and why did it start? What are the advantages of ESP? What are the types of ESP? And what are the core steps of the ESP? And finally, given the example by the title of our research paper, which is School Administrative Employees' Perceptions of English for Specific Purposes. Before we start, I'd like to do this task with all of you. All what we are going to do, we are going to listen to a text, then we are going to read the questions to answer them. But before listening to the text, I prefer for all of you to read the three questions before the listening task. So you have 1 minute to read the questions before the listening task. Okay, are you ready? Let's start to listen to this text, then you will tell me your answers in the chat box.
Once upon a time, there was a land called Learningia, where children dreamt of becoming chefs, astronauts, artists, and more. But there was a giant wall blocking their path, made of strange words and confusing structures and more. This wall was called English land, and it seemed impossible to climb over. Then, a brave knight named ESP arrived. Unlike other knights, ESP didn't carry a sword. Instead, he had a magic toolbox filled with special English used by chefs, astronauts, and artists. With ESP's help, the children in Learningia learned the secret language of cooking, the countdown codes of space travel, and the colorful words of art. Suddenly, the giant wall of English didn't seem so scary anymore. Now, the children could climb over it with confidence, ready to chase their dreams in their own unique way. So, are you ready to join ESP on an adventure and unlock the magic of English for your own dreams? Let's go.
So let's go, and after listening to the text and before, as you have finished reading the questions, I'm waiting for your answers in the chat box. You have only 1 minute to give me your response. Okay, very nice. Yes, you're right. Now let's check our answers together. So the answers, number one, the name of the land is Lingria. Number two, the answer is letter C, English. And number three, letter A, ESP. After this introduction, I'd like to ask a question from your information. What is ESP? If you know, please write for me your answer. Okay, English for special purposes is okay. Okay. For specific, yes. Fair enough, thank you. Let's start this slide by asking a question. Why do we learn English and why we teach the language of English in our schools, our institutes, colleges, universities, and so on? Why gives us and leads to a reason. We teach our students, our learners, the language for a reason. He likes to be a pilot, engineer, chef, and whatever. So this person needs the language. Why? For a reason. Now we have a specific reason. So this man or this girl needs the language for a specific reason. We have a second question. What kind of language this man or this lady needs? If he is a pilot, if he is a doctor or she is a nurse, he needs the language of the situations. What I mean, text and context. He needs, for example, if he is a tour guide, he needs the language to tell the tourists while using the speaking skill the famous monuments, temples, and so on. Now we have to answer. We have why, so we have a purpose. We have what kind of language. It's already for a purpose. And finally, we have how. How here means for English language teachers the methodology. How can we teach English for specific purposes to this candidate? We have here a code. Tell me what you need English for, and I'll tell you the English that you need. Now we need to make a definition, and you can guess from the used pictures what is the definition of the English for specific purposes or ESP. ESP is what is a tailored approach which is focuses on or focusing on the four language skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. In what? In a specific domain, in a field, if you are a doctor, if she is a nurse, and whatever. Now, we have a third slide. When and why did ESP start? The ESP started, and before answering this question is asked by many scholars, many candidates, many participants, because some people think that English for specific purposes started the last 20 years only. No, definitely no. English for specific purposes started during the Second World War, 1954. Many soldiers were captured by the enemies, as we know that after any war we have winners and we have losers. So, losers, their soldiers, were captured by the enemies, and they were asked by using English language about many information. Already they will never tell any secret information, but they need to use the language to tell the simple information as their names, from where, and so on. Then we have a graph of English for specific purposes, especially for science and technology. Then the language of English between, or what I mean English for specific purposes, between 50s and 60s, the linguistic revolution, which started to happen with many theories and many waves, and concentrated on motivation. And what we mean here by motivation is concentrating on the learners themselves. They need the language for a purpose. And now we are language teachers, English language teachers in international schools. Students need the language for a purpose. Also, we cannot forget the oil crisis which happened in 1970, and when America and European countries sent for searching to extract oil, we needed this kind of or approaches of the language English for specific purposes. And for many nowadays, for many international schools, universities, and so on, we have many learners who are learning the language, maybe inside different international systems, IB, Canadian, American, and so on. And we have many students and many Arab learners who travel to study at any approach, at any college outside of their countries, and they needed the language for their academics and whatever. What I want to explain and assure here that we have increased on the movement of or the approach of English for specific purposes. Now we need to ask ourselves a question. Why English for specific purposes and not English for general purposes? Number one, English for specific purposes is tailored for specific group of people who are working or studying, and they need the language for a purpose. They needed to use this language to focus on their academics and on their fields and careers. Also, using English for specific purposes. Imagine that you are going to make an interview at any school, at any university, or he is an engineer, for example. Using the language during the interview is one of the merits which will be appreciated by the HR at this company or at this school. So we need English for specific purposes, for more in-depth communication. Also, English for specific purposes doesn't cost money, and it never wastes time because we are not going to teach this learner or this candidate the language since his childhood. We do this at our schools. This is English for specific purposes and English for general purposes. Strevens, 1988, summarizes the advantages of English for specific purposes with the following points. Number one, being focused on the learner's needs and it wastes no time. Number two, it's tailored to the learner field, profession, and interest. Number three, it doesn't waste your money. And finally, it is successful in the academics or your profession as a worker or an employee at this company or whatever. Let's move to a next slide. The next slide is ESP. ESP takes the learners from a known point to be in a known point, while English for general purposes is the opposite. Just a reminder here about EFL, English as a foreign language. Learn in non-English speaking countries. Learn for academics or for personal reasons. Also, let's practice outside classes. And finally, many of learners learn broad academic skills. After that, we have one of the most important classifications in the history of English language teaching. Let's concentrate here. We have this tree and this tree for language teaching by Waters and Hudson. We can look here and see that language teaching is including English language teaching, which is divided into English as a second language and English as a foreign language. Let's focus on English or EFL, English as a foreign language here, which is including ESP, English for specific purposes. And this also can be divided into English for science and technology, which is known as EST, English for business and economics, which is known as EPE, and also we have English for social sciences, which is known as ESS. English for specific purposes is a big umbrella. Umbrella for what? For English for academics and English for occupational purposes. And if we are going to look at the tree, we have at the final of the tree, English for medical studies, English for teaching and for economics, for secretaries, for psychology, and so on. So by the end, English for specific purposes is what we need whenever we study at our colleges or taking courses and so on, or when we work in a specific field. Now, ESP course steps. When we design a course in English for specific purposes, number one, we need to know the needs, the desires of our learners. Then we have to select our materials and develop all the materials. Then we have a third step, which is delivering the information. And finally, or before the end, we have the assessment and the feedback, which is very important in English for specific purposes, because after the feedback, we have to look again to our materials and developing information and delivering them and so on. Needs analysis. Needs analysis is the process of identifying and describing the needs of the learners and the context for which they need to learn English. We use needs analysis. Why we use them? Because English for specific purposes is mainly focused on the needs of the learners. We have to know some information before designing our course. For example, we can use questionnaires similar to surveys, and this can happen before the course to know many useful and different information before preparing any English for specific purposes course. And if we have time, we can use the interviews, whatever interviews or semi-structured interview questions and observations. But as we know that academics and employees who are working in different places are always busy and their time schedules are busy. And tests, which is one of the very important tools that can measure the level of what? The level of the candidates, because we have to know, and the candidate, he has to know his level of English to join English for specific purposes course. Finally, needs analysis data can be analyzed to design our materials and our course. Our example, school administrative employees perceptions for English or in English for specific purposes. Let's have this simple introduction. ESP, or English for specific purposes, aims to link what? To link English education to what? To learners' communicative needs through two things. Number one, needs analysis. Number two, material evaluation. And for the materials, some materials are already prepared. Some materials needs supporting materials. Some materials we do it from the scratch. In this paper, we have two research questions, and this paper is already finished and under publication. Question number one, research question number one. What are the perceived challenges with referencing specific purposes that affects the performance of private schools administrators? And the second question, which is how can private schools administrative staff overcome and have solutions to these challenges according to their perceptions? The findings of this research paper, we concluded the challenges in this figure. Number one, communication. Some employees needed the English for a specific purpose. They needed it to communicate, for example, with parents who are foreigners, or they have strong background about English language and they insist on using it in the workplace when they ask, for example, about their sons, kids, and so on. Others complained about documentation. They faced many problems while documenting, for example, a certificate, or when we have any organization that is doing its part of its task in the school, and they need the documents written in English. Also, CPD, or continuous professional development, which is leading to image, and we have personal image, which is related to the one himself, to himself, how he is looking at his English language at his workplace. And we have professional or academic one, which is related to the workplace itself. And finally, some complain about the discrimination, or maybe they are going to lose their jobs as they cannot deal with English language, which is mainly we need it for the school as an admin. And the findings or the solutions on the tongue of the same persons, they suggested that number one, school can ask English department at any school is already having many professional teachers. So why not those teachers are trying to help their colleagues and try to give them what they need in English language related to the workplace. Also, we have learning resources. Some asked the administrators to provide them with any learning resource to be in the school library or even online, and they will study together in their work groups. But at the same time, they asked the school to measure the levels of English language. Also, we have staff performance evaluation, which is already asked by many candidates in this research paper. They needed the school to evaluate their level of English language using, for example, any contracts between the school and any outside institute or any respectable place which is delivering this kind of services, or maybe inside the school can provide the teachers by many things like this. Also, we have many language activities which is encouraging the candidates or the employees to use the language. They asked for more online language programs or applications under the supervision of the school. So they expressed their need for English for a specific purpose. By the end or the conclusion of this research paper, the study explores the challenges faced by administrative employees in one of the language schools and suggests decision makers should encourage and support the use of English for specific purposes, which is known as ESP, while also adjusting international laws and principles. It was the final conclusion of this research paper. After I finished, I'd like to do the acknowledgement, help in collecting data. Farida Sameh, she is head of department at Trial International School, and we have Walid Abdel Megid. He is English instructor at Talaa Islamic Language School, and he is a freelancer. Second eye on the PowerPoint presentation, Muhammad Abdul Aziz. He is an educational consultant at Modern House for publishing. And my big thanks to the conference manager, Mr. Muhammad Nabil. This presentation is prepared by Haytham Safwat and Amr Slim. And we have some of the resources and the references related to our lecture. Thank you very much. Really, thank you, Mr. Muhammad, and thank you for all our colleagues from different parts, different locations, and thank you again very much. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your contribution to the Educast's International Line Conference. It was a good presentation indeed. People, are thanking you in the chat box. So someone is asking a question here. Is Salman is saying, would you like to recommend or suggest in a book for a detailed study of ESP?
So I'll talk about myself that English for specific purposes is an academic track which started 4 years before in the Arab Academy for Science and Technology, Alexandria main campus, College of CLC, the supervision of Dr. Adil Rifki and Dr. Ines Hussein. They have a very wonderful staff, and really, I changed myself during all this time of the last 4 years. This is what I finished about my master's degree, and those are my recommendations. You can also join some webinars related to the same field by any university. You can search on LinkedIn. It's one of the best sites that you can find lots of information about English for specific purposes and so on.
Yeah, or you can, find the resources at the end of this presentation. I think they are insightful in order to have a better understanding of teaching English for specific purposes. But what has really come to my mind, something that is really important here, which is most teachers neglect the importance of um, uh, English for specific purposes courses, and only care about providing general English courses for learners. And this is completely wrong because the best thing or the number one or the priority of every teacher should be responding to the learner's needs. So you cannot, offer a general English course for someone who wants, for example, to work in business. So you have to offer a business English course or English for, tourism or English for any other purpose. So again, the most important thing is to respond to the learner's needs. And what really comes to my mind when I talk about that, I mean the consequences of neglecting English for specific purposes, unlike, demotivation and disengagement of the learners because the students might feel their learning is irrelevant or, lacks clear goals, leading to demotivation and disengagement. Also, there might be some limited career opportunities, as without the necessary English for specific purposes skills, students might struggle to meet the English language requirements for their chosen professions. One more thing, which is the insufficient use of resources, as focusing on general English courses might not maximize the potential of students who need language skills for specific purposes. So what I mean here is that we need to find a balance, and the ideal approach is when trying to find a balance between general English and English for specific purposes. Teachers can, integrate English for specific purposes elements into general English lessons, offer specialized English for specific purposes courses, or collaborate with industry professionals, like partnering with professionals from relevant fields who can provide insights into the specific English language skills needed to different careers. So that's what I thought about this, because again, every teacher should study the market well, should know exactly what the needs of the teachers or of the learners are, and should always respond to these needs. So that's my comment, after this wonderful presentation. So there are also some wonderful, comments and questions on the chat box.
Mhm.
It must be very challenging to prepare ESP courses for pilots, for example. If you're not a pilot yourself and are not aware of aviation terminology to start with, how do you deal with it? It's a very good question.
Okay, let's give an example, but I can't remember exactly the name of the accident, but there was lack of communication between one of the pilots, I think in Malaysia, and the traffic controller. And it was a big accident because it was a very foggy day. And what I remember that all the members of the airplane were already dead because of lack of communication for this traffic controller. And what I remember also that traffic controller is one he doesn't need general English. What he needs is to keep the safety of all the people on airplanes, airport, and so on, to keep this kind of safety during his job. So I believe that the strongest thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created is the word, the language itself. By your words, you can make a problem. By your words, you can ask your wife to do something. You can get whatever what you need by using a language for a purpose, which is English for specific purposes. And if you please give me another chance to tell about the lack of communication between doctors. Let's imagine that we have a doctor at one of the hospitals, and he doesn't have this specific language, and he is working during this day at the emergency department. And we have one of the cases which came in an accident. For example, how can this doctor communicate with a specific kind of language? And how can he deal using, I'm looking here at the language itself, to communicate, and how can he behave using the language with this case, which is coming in a bad accident or so on. Language is very important, but for a purpose.
Yeah, so I have one comment here, which is every teacher is also a learner. So in order to teach something, you have to study it,
Sure.
first. For example, before becoming a teacher trainer, you need to teach in different contexts,
Hmm.
know the different needs of the learners, try to put everything to the test or your knowledge, and then you can train teachers on what you already learned. So my answer to this question is to study first before, deciding to provide ESP courses. The sentence here is saying ESP or English for specific purposes is important in English teaching because it tailors language instruction to meet the specific needs of learners in their professional or academic contexts. By focusing on relevant vocabulary, grammar, structures, and communication skills related to a particular field or industry, ESP helps learners develop the language proficiency necessary for success in their specific area of expertise. This targeted approach enhances learners' motivation, engagement, and effectiveness in using English for their professional or academic purposes. That's wonderful. That's a wonderful comment. So Sally is saying thanks much
Hi,
for
dear.
the highly beneficial illustration. Yes.
Yes, the idea is that the text in context.
Uh, you're completely right. So, thanks very much for the highly beneficial illustration of such a new and important aspect of learning English language. She has a question here. How to provide such a balance while we have to use certain curricula? Well, we always have the right and freedom to choose supplementary materials. So I think you have to incorporate activities related to specific purposes, like, a lesson maybe about someone who wants to become a businessman, so we can have a discussion on how, this person can be a businessman, the skills required, the vocabulary, the grammar, structures, and all of this stuff. So you can always have supplementary materials from the internet, and there are lots of websites that can provide you with these resources. So yes, don't try to stick to the lessons that you have, because I always say to the trainees that they need to teach the learners, not the plan. Otherwise, teachers will never be able to respond to the learners' needs. Um, yes, heartiest congratulations. Is there a feedback form? If, of course, there will be a feedback form, but don't rush because we have another talk before the end of the second pre-conference days here. Um, so thank you for your answer. Wonderful presentation. Really, thanks a million. Integrated material, amazing session. Thanks a lot. Yes, amazing opinion, Dr. Really. Yeah. So it was great to be having you, Dr. Haytham, in our conference this year. Thanks a lot for this wonderful contribution.
Before I leave, I'd like to send my big thanks also to my doctor, and she's my elder sister, Dr. Mayo Ghanim. She taught me how to write a paper. She taught me how to write, how to study, how to look at your materials. So thanks again, Dr. Mayo Ghanim. Thanks, Arab Academy for Science and Technology, and my big thanks to you, Mr. Muhammad.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. So I think we have another question before we end this. This question is from the YouTube channel because there are lots of people there watching the live stream. What's the first step to study ESP?
What
The
is
first
first
step.
by yourself or academic studies?
Well, I think, he's talking in general. Maybe he wants to provide English for specific purposes courses. So
So
in my point of view, a teacher needs to understand why does he want to study. The purpose here is what should drive the teacher as a learner, right?
also this teacher is already perfect using the language. He is familiar with the vocabulary and the terminology of this field that he selected to join. He has to collect his materials. He has to know for a reason. So it's English for specific purposes. I have the language, I have the materials, I selected the materials, and I always assess my materials. I ask my audience, I have my clear objectives, I have my time, and so on. So it's a continuous process from the scratch, because what is good in English for specific purposes that teachers or trainers are building step by step with their candidates or with their learners towards being professional at using the language at their workplace.
Yeah, that was a great answer. So I think we'll have to end this talk by a wonderful comment from one of the attendees, Fiona. She said, language is the dress of thought. Yeah. And yes, thank you, Dr. Haytham, for this valuable contribution. And everyone, don't go anywhere because we have another talk before the end of the second day of the pre-conference days. And the next talk is not very different from what we talked about in this talk. We have Sarah Safa, who will be talking about developing a business English course with 21st century skill. So before talking about this, let me tell you a little bit about the presentation. Well, let's try to discover how business English blends language study with 21st century skills. So the presentation offers useful tips for creating an engaging ESL course that equips students to meet the demands of modern workplace challenges. Learn effective teaching methods and evaluation methods to prepare ESL students for success in a globalized business environment. So Sarah will be part of Educast sooner or later, by the way, and she's a great speaker and teacher trainer. So Sarah, can you please start today by telling the people about yourself?
Okay, thank you so much for your introduction. It's a pleasure for me to be here with all of you. So basically, my name is Sarah Safa, as you have said, and I have been working as an English teacher for almost 8 years now so far. I've been through lots of great milestones during my career. I've been working as a teacher trainer and a supervisor, and recently I have worked as an academic director. So as you have said, today's topic is not so different from the last presentation. However, it's like more of a workshop because this presentation used to be a workshop. And I'm going to share with you the tips and tricks that I basically do with myself. And I'm going to share with you also some like pieces of my mind when it comes to preparing a business course or a business English course. So let's go, let's dive right into it. I'm going to share the screen, so is it okay?
Yeah, sure. Please do it.
Okay, great. So, yeah, this is me, obviously, and this is the title of the presentation, which is Developing a Business English Course with the 21st Century Skills. Okay, so I'm going to start with the agenda of the presentation, and our presentation is divided into 2 sections. Okay, so phase 1 and phase 2. Starting with phase 1, number 1. So I'm going to share it again with you in case you didn't catch the titles. So we have understand who are your students, which is very important. Understand the meaning of a business English, like the term of business English. Understand 21st century skills. Then we will dive into the second phase, which is understand how to evaluate and assess student skills, which is very important. Then how to apply a skills-based lesson plan. Okay. So phase 1, number 1, understand who are your students, which is something very important. And because it's very obvious that all of our students, we think that they are the same or they come from like the same category. However, when it comes to teaching business English, you have to know exactly the background of your students. So before knowing more about our students, what can you see in this picture? Can anyone like share with me? Like Any buzzwords that popped into your mind when you see this picture? Can anyone participate? Shall I go on? Okay. So basically, we can see here two types of students. The first one on your right, I guess it's on my left, so I guess it's on your right. I'd like to call this student like Mr. Robot. And the second student, which is on my right hand, I like to call him a skilled student. So we have Mr. Robot and Mr. Skilled. So we're here actually to know more about them, their mindsets, and why they are completely different. Even though they are like in the same level, they exert the same effort, they study the same amount of time, but how one of them is very skilled and the other one like cannot participate this much, cannot like communicate well, and so on. Sometimes in our classes, we can see this kind of student who always does his best. He's studying well, he's participating, he does his tasks. However, we feel like there is something missing, okay? And we cannot like highlight what's the issue when it comes to this student. And we are here now to know exactly what's this issue. Okay, so who are your targeted students? Like with me, you don't have to participate orally, but you can think at least. So guess 5 types of students who may need to take a business English course and why. So 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like, okay. And let's share some. Entrepreneurs, job seekers, government officials, consultants and freelancers, employees. So all of them are obviously, okay, again. All of them are obviously adults, okay? Which takes us to a topic that is very important, and I need you to put it into consideration while you are preparing your sessions, which is the science of adult learning. It's actually a recent study. It's a recent study that has been published in 2018. However, it's very important. And while studying it myself, I have made my own checklist that I like to review whenever I go ahead and prepare for any course for adults. Okay, so I'm going to share with you my checklist in details, providing you tips and tricks on how to apply it. Okay, so let's go. This is my checklist. So let me ask you first if you have ever prepared a checklist, or have you ever thought about a common checklist that you need to check before preparing any course, because it's very important. You have to organize your thoughts. I'd like to tell myself I prepare like an educator, I teach like a teacher, and I think like a student. This is my own formula, which makes my classes engaging and unique. So obviously you have 2 minutes to think about your checklist, but we're going to skip this. Okay, but try to think about it in your inside your mind, like what's your first point that you're going to check before preparing any materials for your classes. Okay, like just give it a try inside your mind. Okay. Okay, so I always put inside my mind, or put into consideration, that my students love to have like a self-directed learning experience, and that the material should be relevant to them. And number 3 is that I need to put into consideration also the diverse learning styles. I have to make it like in an atmosphere that has lots of engagement. Number 5, positive relationships or the positive rapport. And 6, recognizing the value of learning tasks. I'm going to tell you actually more about this. This was actually like a task that you should think and match, but I'm going to provide all of you with the answers right away. Does anybody want to participate? To like go through and think what's self-directed learning? Okay. I'm gonna.
Yes, I think people, I think people are still typing in the chat box, some of them are saying wonderful things here, like the students' needs, important things to cover in the lesson, project-based learning for
Haven't
progress. Yeah.
got it.
So, and we have Iman here, who's willing to participate. So, are you asking whether they can unmute themselves?
Yes, whoever wants to unmute himself or herself, I can go right away.
Him or herself, yeah. So, Iman, could you please raise your hand so that I can allow you to unmute yourself?
Mhm. Okay. I just don't want to waste like your precious time, so I'm going to share with you the answers right away. But please look at it and tell me if there is something unclear or you want to ask about a certain thing. So give it a try. Just look at it. Okay. Allocate time and what I can't see. Do the task. Allocate the time. Yes.
Yes, I think I think they need more time, to answer or to do the task.
Yes. Okay. Great. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to share with you my tips and tricks when it comes to applying every or each point of the previous points. So self-directed learning, the teacher should offer choices and flexibility when it comes to activities, encourage self-reflection and goal setting, utilize collaborative learning methods where adults learn from each other. So this is actually my checklist, the checklist that I go by when it comes to preparing any session, and it has proved that it's very effective. Okay, so let's go to number 2, which is design tasks with practical applications and meaningful outcomes. Utilize case studies, simulations, and project-based learning. 3, connect content to current events and professional situations. So don't be separated when it comes to the real life. If something going on, include this thing inside your classroom. Number 3, provide variety of instructional methods and materials, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. Encourage exploration and with different learning strategies, foster a supportive and inclusive environment where diverse perspectives are valued. Number 4, use interactive activities and discussions to involve all learners. Encourage problem solving and critical thinking through open-ended questions and real-world challenges. And we're going to go in depth when it comes to this part very soon. Number 5, positive relationships or the rapport inside the class. Build the trust and rapport with learners. This is very important. Create collaborative and inclusive classroom atmosphere. Provide constructive feedback and encourage self-development. At the end, the last one, which is recognizing the value of learning tasks. Set clear goals. Okay. Set clear goals for the session. As I have done with you at the very beginning, I set my own agenda. So you have to do the same thing with your students. Set clear goals for the tasks. This is number 2. Number 3, emphasize the continuous awareness of how tasks contribute to learning goals. So you have to tell your students or to share with your students the rationale sometimes, not all the times, but sometimes when it comes to certain tasks. So we're doing this because it's important when it comes to that and that. Okay, this engage your students more, especially when it comes to teaching business English, because like your students are small business owners, entrepreneurs. They like to think about the goals and objectives behind everything. So you need to give them this sense of relief. Okay. Let's move on and back to our like the name of our topic today. And as you can see, it has 2 key points: business English and 21st century skills. We're going to know more about those 2 keywords. So first, like the next milestone that we have so far is understand the meaning of business English. And so far, you can identify business English in 2 ways. Okay. The first way is simply says that it's a general English course, but we are focusing on certain terms or certain structures that can go with the business workplace. This is simply like the first way that you can identify the business English. The second way, as you have, I guess, like shared before my session or discussed before my session, is the ESP, which is teaching English for special purposes. Such courses might be like, if you want a certain thing, for example, if you want to know more about the legal terms in English because you're a lawyer and you need to know more about how to lay out your contracts and so you need like the English course for a certain purpose. The next milestone, which is understand the 21st century skills, the things that we are here for. Okay. So as we can see here, the 21st century skills are divided into 3 categories: learning skills, literacy skills, and life skills. Okay. Let's move on. And we're going to go to phase 2. But let's go back to the 21st century skills. I want you to look at all like the skills in front of you and think, what are the main skills that I should integrate in my business English course and why? Okay, like look at it and think about it for a while. So we have in the learning skills, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication. In the literacy skills, we have information, media, and technology. In the life skills, we have flexibility, leadership, initiative, productivity, and social skills. Okay, so look at it. If you are designing your own material, your own course, what are the skills that you're going to focus on? Because they are very important when it comes to communicating in a business English workplace. Think. And I'm going to share with you right away. Or let's find them together. They are called the 4 C's. And those are the 4 skills that I focus on when it comes to teaching business English. So let's find out together the 4 C's: critical thinking, creativity, pardon me, collaboration, communication, which are the learning skills. Someone might ask here, but I can like think about leadership. I can think about flexibility, whatever you want. However, in my own point of view, I believe that these are the most 4 important skills. And those skills like differentiate between Mr. Robot, if you are following so far, and Mr. Skilled. Okay, because Mr. Robot and Mr. Skilled, they are they have the same abilities so far. They study the same amount of time. They are doing everything perfectly. However, the main difference between both of them is that someone has the ability to be a critical thinker. He's creative, he can communicate better. However, the other one doesn't have the skill, not the knowledge. He has the knowledge, but he doesn't have the skill to use the knowledge. Okay. Let's move to the next slide. So those are the 4 C's again. Okay. Now we want to evaluate our students' skills. We have Mr. Robot, and we want to know, like, what's his level when it comes to critical thinking, right? What's his level when it comes to creativity? And it's very difficult because you cannot actually like break into his mind and know if he's creative or not. It's very difficult, isn't it? So it's not that difficult if you understand fully what are these skills. So let's get to know them more, shall we? So first one, communication. The first one is communication. So communication means working with others. Okay. Creativity. Creativity and innovation. It's not working with others for sure. Talking to others, this is communication. Okay, there is an overlap here. I'm going to share with you, and let's match them together. So working with each other is what? Collaboration for sure. Critical thinking, yes, finding solutions for problems. Communication, talking together. And collaboration, working together. Creativity is to be able to produce new solutions. Yes. So knowing these things will make me able to evaluate my students' skills? No, because it's not that simple. However, let me like move into this part because you should like be participating with me here. But according to knowing what are the skills exactly will make you able to develop some can-do statements. And according to these can-do statements, you will be able to evaluate your students' skills. So let's take, for example, critical thinking. So look at your student. Is he able to identify issues and asking questions about these issues? If yes, so tick it. Is he able to find evidences? If so, give it a tick. Is he able to reach conclusions? Is he able to evaluate evidence? Give it a check. So now you can know what your student lacks when it comes to critical thinking, and you can guide him through the tasks, okay, to be a better critical thinker. Same thing when it comes to communication, for example. I want to know if my student is a good communicator or not. It doesn't only depend on how fast he speaks or his accent. It depends on the quality of the language he uses and also what he can do with the communication. So let's go to some of the can-do statements of the communication part or the communication skills. So share learning, persuade others, be clear. Is he clear? Can he invite feedback, like ask for feedback and receive feedback or not? This is part also of the communication skills. When it comes to creativity, you can look and think, is he able to imagine or generate ideas or not? Can he make conclusions? Can he elaborate more? Can he take risks? So for example, when it comes to a certain presentation inside your classroom, is he able to improvise and to do some impulsive actions or say something that he doesn't, he didn't prepare it before or not? Okay, and finally, collaboration. Is he able to cooperate with his mates? Is he able to build a team around him or not? Is he able to evaluate the team? So, which means to assign each one of his colleagues in the right part? Is he able to find solutions when it comes to the problems that they are facing while they are collaborating or not? So these are the can-do statements that you can use to evaluate or mentor your students to know the level of their skills. Okay. Oh, oops. So as we know that each skill has a sub-skill, right? So for example, we have listening for gist, we have listening for details, we have listening for specific details, and we can actually measure each sub-skill with our activities, okay? So same thing when it comes to the 4 C's, creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, and so on. So those are some sub-skills when it comes to communication. You can like take a screenshot or something. I wanted to share with you the materials and the things that I use myself to know the level of my students. So this is the communication. And also you can see that there is an evaluation for each sub-skill. Okay. Thank you. Let's go to collaboration, critical thinking, creativity. So, and that's the end of phase 2.1, and we're going to dive into phase 2.2, which is the last phase of the presentation. So now we understand the 21st century skills. We have picked the skills that we need to apply in the session. We know how to evaluate and mentor our students and take notes when it comes to their skills. But how can we actually put this into action? How can I prepare a lesson plan that is based on the 4 C's? This is what we are going to know right away. Okay, yeah, this is the question that I have raised. So this is basically, if you used Google to find the 4 C's framework, this is basically what you will find. However, I found it a bit complicated for me to apply it in such like structure. So I have developed my own structure, and I'm very happy to share my own structure with you. So I started with the stage, the aim of the stage, the time, the procedures, and the interaction pattern. So this is my lesson plan when it comes to applying the 4Cs in my business English class or any ESL class. It doesn't have to be a business English. There's still the students need to develop such skills too, aren't they? So I start with the warm-up, and then I go right through the lead and the exposure of my content. Then I go through something that has critical thinking and creative thinking together. And I'm going to tell you how in details. Then I go through an activity that has communication and collaboration, or focuses on communication and collaboration. Then I make my students apply all the previous skills into one task, which is the presentation. Because I feel like in a presentation is the outcome of all the effort that my students have done. So after that, for sure, I'm going to give them a language feedback. And at the end, I'm going to give them my 4Cs feedback, as I have shared with you before. Okay, so let's know more about each stage. Okay, so after introducing and modeling a new concept, I make students think in a critical way and creative way about it. So I assign some activities for my students to complete individually. So this part is for the individuals. We don't make it in pairs, we don't make it in groups, individually. Okay. Then after students have completed their individual tasks, I have them turn to a classmate or small groups to share their ideas. This activity requires students to take something written and internal and make it spoken and external. It makes students think practically and in a sorry and in a creative way with each other, with each other, which is the definition of communication and collaboration. Okay, so this one is an individual task, and the second one in pairs or in groups. It's like the think, pair, share, but I'm going to give you more details about this. At the end, they make the presentation as I do, because they can share all the outcomes that they have been working on. Okay, so think, pair, share might seem very simple. However, you can apply it in lots of ways. Okay, so those are some activities with the explanation and the examples. If you want to apply the first part, which is think, okay, you can have a look and tell me if you have any question when it comes to this part so far. So I'm providing you right now with a variety of activities that you can use when it comes to the think, pair, share. So this is the end of my presentation, and we have been through phase 1 and phase 2 so far in depth. I tried my best to share with you the tips and tricks that I applied myself. And I'm waiting for all of your questions, if you have any, for sure.
So, yes, I'm here, and thanks a lot for your contribution to this conference. Sarah, it was a very good presentation. People are, thanking you.
Thank you.
And someone is asking about the PowerPoint presentation.
The what?
The
I can't see
PowerPoint
it.
presentation.
The PowerPoint, I can send it right away if you want.
Okay, very good. So everyone, if you have any other questions, feel free to type them in the chat box. Sarah, till we find some other questions. I had something in my mind. I've had something in my mind related to a book that I've just finished writing, and it's about life skills integration in ELT. Since you were talking about critical thinking, so critical thinking skills, our 21st century skills are part of life skills that every
Yes.
learner should acquire. And if people do not understand what life skills are, life skills are in English language teaching are the essential abilities that go beyond simply mastering the English language itself. They equip learners with the tools they need to navigate everyday situations, solve problems, and thrive in a globalized world.
Mhm.
And for some examples of life skills that we have, communication skills like active listening, clear and concise speaking, collaborative communication, and negotiation and conflict resolution. Also, critical thinking, which is
Mhm.
about problem solving, decision making, and critical analysis. We also
There,
have
there
creativity.
is an
Yeah,
approach called the problem-based approach or so. I
yeah,
can't recall it right away.
yeah.
But it says that you have to give your adult learners some problems to solve, and according to
Uh-huh.
this, you're going to provide them with your input.
Good.
You're going to develop their skills. So, as you have
Mhm.
said, critical thinking has become very important.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So
Mhm.
again, I think I'm gonna offer some of the lucky ones of the attendees of this conference a
Mhm.
free copy of my book, Integrating Life Skills in ELT. But this
Great.
will happen. Yeah, this will happen at the end of the conference because we're gonna have a big celebration, a big competition. We're going to have a spinning wheel to find the winners of free courses offered by British Training Center, free courses and discounts offered by Educast training qualifications, and also, you know, a free certificate of attendance. Yeah, and this depends on your filling out of the form that that was sent to the chat box. So for the PowerPoint presentations, they are going to be sent to all of you via email. Yeah, at the end of the conference. So for the questions related to the feedback form, if you filled it once, no need to fill it again. And if you haven't filled it out yet, you have to fill it out today. So thanks a lot, Sarah, for your contribution to the conference. I really enjoyed your presentation myself, and I'm sure that everyone here did the same. So yes, we're lucky to also have Ami Altamirano, one of the speakers of tomorrow's day, yeah, the first day of the conference. So people are thanking you about the presentation, and we have a question here before we end this.
Yeah, sure.
Um, Shayma Muhammad is saying, could you please show us the four C's chart profession and basic level?
When it comes to a basic level, okay, you can always you can always grade your activities. So grade your activity and integrate like one skill. Okay. For me, I can like I in my own point of view, you can integrate critical thinking when it comes to any level. It's very easy. Maybe when it comes to communication, it depends on the level somehow, not all the time. However, when it comes to critical thinking, you can always give your students something to think about and to give you like some creative ideas about.
Yeah, that was great. So thanks, Sarah, again. And everyone, I'd like to wrap up, the pre-conference days 1 and 2. And yes, let me share the screen. So yesterday we started at 5 um, p.m. Cairo time. Yes. So our conference day is entitled Learning to Lead, Empowering Educators Through Professional Growth. So again, we started the first talk with Hind Ilyas about inspiring educators, exploring the potential of communities of practice for growth. And then we moved with Kareem Mahmoud to talk about evaluating English as a foreign language reference material, posted dictionary skills in EFL classrooms. And with Ayabad, we talked about effective speaking activities, maximizing learning outcomes and learner engagements. That was for the first day. And today we have four wonderful speakers. They were Gihad Samir, who talked about assessment for learning or off learning. Then we had Hibatullah, Mursi, and Tiziana, but Tiziana couldn't make it today. So Hibatullah talked about ChatGPT, the personalized guide to teacher growth. And then Dr. Haytham Safwat, who talked about school administrative employees' perceptions of English for specific purposes. And last but not least, Sarah Safa, who talked about developing a business English course with the 21st century skills. So, everyone, let me share with you a word before we end this. Before we bid farewell for today, let's take a moment to acknowledge the incredible speakers and attendees who have brought the street conference to life. Your dedication, expertise, and collaborative spirit have fueled our collective growth and ignite a spark of transformation within each of us. Our journey doesn't end here. Tomorrow, the real magic starts at the first day of the Educast International Conference 2024 with day one with lots of speakers. And we're going to also have another great lineup for the second day on Saturday. As you head into your evening, carry with you the momentum of these past 2 days. Reflect on the learnings that resonated most with you, connect with new colleagues on the conference platform, and most importantly, let the excitement for tomorrow simmer. So, everyone, tomorrow at 8 a.m. Cairo time, we're going to start the first day of the Educast International Online Conference 2024 with lots of wonderful presentations about professional development and how important it is. So everyone, don't forget to fill out the form of the feedback in order to get your certificates of attendance. And if you're asking about the recorded sessions, yesterday's sessions and today's sessions, they are all on our YouTube, Educast EG. There you will find all of them. And also every single presentation, uh, at Educast will be found there. So let me share the feedback form again with you in the chat box. Yeah, it's here. Very good. So everyone, don't forget to come early tomorrow because the real magic starts at 8 a.m. in the morning, Cairo time. Bye-bye.